So today we're going to cap off inequalities. Right now, I want you to write down any vocabulary words that you don't already have in your notebook for less than, equal to, greater than, less than or equal to, not equal to, and greater than or equal to in your expressions and equations part. So write this down and I'm going to pause the video. Next, let's review. So I have an inequality that says for me to graph x is greater than -2. If we look back on our notes and we have our number line here, it's saying that we have to plot -2. So in your number line, go ahead and plot numbers down where there's -2. Right here, I'm going to have -2, and this could be -1, 0. This will be -3. This will be -4. Now look at our sign here. It is telling us a greater than sign. Now, when it's a greater than sign, it's going to give you an open circle. A closed circle would be greater than or equal to or less than or equal to or equal to. In this case, it's going to be a closed circle. So what I want you to do is do an open circle on -2. Now, think about the directions we're going. If you're confused on what direction you need to go, think about where -2 is on the number line and plug in things that could work. So let's say we did -3. Is -3 greater than -2? No. So we know we're not going in the direction of the left. Now, if we plugged in 0, is 0 greater than or equal -2? Of course. So go ahead and graph this on your number line in your notebook. Go ahead and pause the video. So your number line should look like mine, where we have an open circle on -2 and we're going in the direction of the right. Now moving on. So we know how to graph an inequality on a number line. Let's say I want you to write an inequality. When we're having a sentence, think about the signs that they're looking at here. So there are less than 4 apples in the fruit basket. I want you to write an inequality of that. Think about what you have to do. Pause the video. Next, what would help is if you highlight what they're asking for here, if you are confused. So if we look at our vocabulary words before, less than is our key word here. Now, if we have less than, what sign would that be? So if I wanted to graph this, if I would want to write this out, it would be X, because we don't know how many apples there are. We just know there's less than that. So it'd be less, and then the less hand side, left less than sign here, less than 4. That would be our inequality in this case. Moving on. So let's go to identifying the inequality. Now, look at the placement of the circle. We know it's an open circle, and we see what direction they're going. Go ahead and pause the video, write down this number line, and then tell me what inequality this would be. So your inequality should look like mine, where x is less than 1. When we have an open circle, that lets us know that x cannot be 1. It's also telling us, look at the direction it's going. 0 can be less than 1, but can 2 be less than 1? No, it can't. So we're going to the direction where it would work, and that is to our left. And it's also the less than sign. Go ahead and write these problems down. We'll go over these together. Now, when we're solving inequalities, it's just like solving equations. The only thing is that the signs are different. So treat it like the equation it is. So I have 3x is less than or equal to 9. Don't worry about the signs just yet. Just worry about getting x by itself. So an operation that's going between a 3 and the x we know is multiplication. To get x by itself, we have to do the opposite. And the opposite is to divide. The opposite of multiplication is division. So follow what I'm doing. I am going to get rid of the 3. I'm dividing the 3. I'm getting rid of the 3. So, oopsies. To get rid of the 3, I have to divide by 3. This, therefore, cancels that 3. And now we just have x by itself. Now, what I do on one side, you know that I have to do the other. So I divided by 3 on one side, so I have to divide by 3 on the other side. And we know that 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now, this is where your sign comes in. We didn't have to do anything with that, just bring it down. So now we know that x is less than or equal to 3. Now, what I want you to do next is to graph this on a number line. So go ahead and graph this on a number line. Pause the video. So your number line may look different from mine, but the important thing is to have the number 3 in any numbers to the left, to the right. So look at our sign here. Our sign is telling us less than or equal to. So what we need to do is, as you know, that if we have a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to or a equal to, it's going to be a closed circle. That lets us know that 3 can be our answer. 3 would qualify. So what you're going to do is you're going to already have a circle here on 3. Now we're going to fill it because that would be a closed circle. So now the question is, well, what direction am I going? Plug in a value of x, anything on the number line. Let's say 4. Is 4 less than or equal to 3? No, right? 4 is greater than 3. So we're not going the direction of the right. Now let's see if the left would work. Now is 2 less than or greater than 2 less than or equal to 3? Yeah. So that direction is to the left. So we are going to graph this on the number line. So here, and now we're going to the left. Now go ahead and solve the rest of these problems on your own when you're doing 2 and 3. So I have the number lines here. Go ahead and solve and then plot them on the number line. Go ahead and pause the video and then we'll catch up. Now, the only difference is now we have 2 steps, but the objective is still the same. We want x by itself. So what we can do is that you see that minus 3. I want to add 3 because that's the opposite. So I'm adding 3 on one side. Cross that out. Now it cancels. Now I have to do the same to the other side. Always remember that. Don't worry about the sign just yet. Just worry about getting x by itself. So 13 plus 3 gives us 16. Now, next I have this 4x. I want to get x by itself. That's my purpose here. So the operation that's going with the 4x is that it's multiplying. So we have to divide. So in doing that, I want x by itself. I'm going to get rid of the 4 by dividing it. That's gone. I have to do the same to the other side. So x, so 16 divided by 4, that's going to give us 4. So now we have our x by itself, and then we have 4 on the other side. This is where your sign comes in. Just attach the sign like you normally would. And our inequality is that x is greater than or equal to 4. Once you have graphed it on your number line, and also keep in mind your number line is going to look different from mine, and that's fine as long as you have your point there. So we have 4. Now we know that this sign right here tells us that it's going to be greater than or equal to, so we already know it's going to be closed circle, always and forever. We're going to plot that on 4. Now, when in doubt, think about what would happen if we plug numbers in. So if we plugged in 3, is 3 greater than or equal to 4? No. But if we plug in 5, 6, or 7, 5 is greater than 4, 6 is greater than 4, and so is 7. So you want to draw your lines on the numbers that would make sense. And this way, all the numbers that would work are on the right. Now, the same thing would happen down here. The same exact thing, the same solution. The only thing that would change is, the sign. So this exact thing would happen here. The only thing is different is the sign. So we're going to solve the same way. And our answer should be x and then 4. The only thing that's different is our sign. Now, think back to our keywords. Actually, think back to our open and closed circle. This is a less than sign. So we know it's not going to equal 4. It's less than that. So it's going to be an open circle. So go ahead and you should have graphed your number line. It could be the exact same thing as up here. The only thing that's different is your open circle and your direction. So your number line, again, it doesn't necessarily have to look like mine, but we do know it's open circle, and we know we're facing to the left because 3 is less than 4, but 5, 6, and 7 is not. And if you don't already have this, copy this down. You can pause the video if you need to. Now, let's look at inequalities in the real world. Go ahead and copy this down in your notebook. You can pause the video, and when you're done, we'll get back to it. Let's read this together. The speed of sound is approximately 768 miles. When an object travels faster than the speed of sound, it creates a sonic boom. It's saying to write an inequality to represent S, the speed of which a moving object creates a sonic boom. So, first thing, we have to identify our variable. What are we talking about here? Here they let us know that it would be S. And S is our variable, and it says it represents the speed at which a moving object creates a sonic boom. Next, let's look at our number. We're talking about 768 miles. Now, we have our variable, we have our number that goes on the other side. Now we're trying to figure out our sign. So, read this again. When an object travels faster than sounds like what? It would be greater than, right? Think of those keywords again. Faster than. Slower would be less than, but this is faster than. So your inequality would look like this. It would be S. And now that we know our sign, that it's faster than, so faster than 768 miles. Now, the speed of sound is approximately 768 miles. S would be that if it's more than that, you're going to get your sonic boom. So your inequality would be if those 769 miles, it would be creating a sonic boom greater than 768. So have that written in your notebook if you haven't already. Now, this is a question from a released EOG. So this is something that you would see on your EOG. So let's look at this together. So write this down in your notebook, this whole thing down. I know it's a lot, but write this whole thing out. Do not write A, B, C, or D. I repeat, do not write down A, B, C, or D, just the problem. You can pause the video. Now, let's read this together. Suppose that a stove and a freezer together weigh at least 370 pounds. The weight of the stove is 170 pounds. Which inequality correctly describes these conditions for the weight of the freezer F? So let's look at what our sign would be. Look at these keywords here. It says at least. And if we look back at our inequality notes in our vocabulary, at least would look like this. At least would be greater than or equal to. Now, let's piece things together. Suppose the stove and a freezer together weigh at least 370 pounds. So 370 pounds would go over here. Now, it's telling us the stove and the freezer. We can write an inequality representing the stove and the freezer. So the stove and the freezer here. Not this, we just need one stove. So moving on. So let's represent the stove as S. Let's represent the freezer as F. Now look at the keyword beside there. It says together. Together, if we look back at our notes a while back, together would mean addition. The stove and the freezer added together would weigh at least 370 pounds. So copy this down. We have our stove represented as S plus F represented our freezer give us 300 or greater than or equal to 370 pounds. We have that, but let's look at the second part of the problem. The weight of the stove is 170 pounds. Which inequality correctly describes these conditions? So we know the answer for the stove is going to be 170. So we're going to replace S with 170. Now, we don't know our freezer, so we're going to still leave that as F. Now, our sign's still the same. Nothing has changed other than adding what we know the stove is. Now, pause the video and I want you to solve this on your own. And when you solve it, we'll regroup. Remember when I talked about in class, it doesn't matter what order is in addition, it matters when it's subtraction. So if you're wondering, well, what do I do with this 170? There's no sign with it. You can also switch this around because it would mean the same thing. F plus 170 is still going to be greater than or equal to 370. That's still the same. So look how it's represented here. It could be easier for you if this would make more sense. So in this case, the opposite of addition is subtraction. So we want to get rid of the 170. We want f, our variable, by itself, always and forever. So we're going to take 170 out. That cancels out. That's done. Now we have f by itself. Now, what we did on one side, you guys already know we have to do to the other. So subtract 170 from both sides. Now over here, 370 minus 170 is going to give us 200. Now, nothing has changed with the sign. The only thing you have to do, like I told you, was to bring down the sign. So, which one of these answer choices fits our description? So, it looks like A would be our answer. And if this is on the EOG, you would have gotten that correct. Now, what I want you guys to do is to get a separate sheet of paper and write these problems down. You're going to turn these into me. I obviously have the correct answers, and I'm going to check it. So this would be your checkpoint. See if you got what the video is saying. So you're going to write 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Write 4 down. You don't have to write the inequality. Just do what they ask for 4 and 5. So you don't have to write 4 out. You don't have to write 5 out. But you need to write 1, 2, and 3 so I can see your process of how you're solving it. But make sure to see what they're saying. Write the inequality, solve, then graph on a number line for 4 and 5. 1, 2, and 3, I just want you to solve. When you're done, turn it into me, and then we'll move on to the next thing.